Some men live a simple life, while others have a fire that threatens to engulf the world.
Bonjour and welcome back to another episode of Life as a Legere. Now that we've gone into detail of how the uniform itself was worn, the next step, and more appropriately, would be all the accouterments that would go on top of this uniform while on campaign or on the march. Now, for the purposes for this video, we are excluding the knapsack or the haversack for the time being, since we will go into greater detail of this piece of equipment in a later video down the road. And in terms of for this one, it seems appropriate that we start this off. Pointy, sharp things. Now, all joking aside, the first leather piece of equipment that would go on the soldier itself would be your sword, bayonet, sling, as shown by this example here. Now, sword, bayonet, slings would only be issued to your elite companies in the battalion line, so your voltigeurs and carbineers. Every soldier would have one of these in those companies. Now, in terms of for chasseur companies, yes, they were issued sword, bayonet, slings as well, at least in the beginning. As the French Revolution and Napoleonic Wars progressed, they had to change some regulations within the army to try and cut back on expenses while arming the soldiers. So, by the 1812 to 1815 period, you would only see a bayonet frog, which would be attached to the cartridge box sling itself. Thus, the only ones that would still be armed with the sword bayonet sling would be your NCOs, such as your corporals and your sergeants. Now, when we went into the uniform description in terms of for distinctions of what company you were a part of, this follows through with the weapons and leather equipment as well. A good example of this would be your sword knot that would be wrapped around the saber itself. Now, for voltigeurs, you would have a green with a yellow band right before the fringe, as shown here. Carbineers, you would have a solid red sword knot that would be wrapped around the saber as well. Another reason for the saber itself, besides ceremonial purposes, is that this was sort of like a last resort weapon should we be in a hand-to-hand combat situation and you lost your musket while in the brawl of the fighting itself for some unknown reason. So once you have your sword, bayonet, sling on, the next piece that would go on would be your cartridge box itself, as shown here. Now, in terms of for distinctions for the leather equipment, again, the good example of this is the brass horn here, which would be used for voltigeurs as well as chasseurs. But in carbineer companies, this would actually be a grenade, as shown in this picture right here. They would also be issued canvas covers that would go over the main flap of the cartridge box as an extra precaution to try to keep your powder dry as best as you can. So as we open this up, it has two flaps to cover the powder, and also it would have a wooden frame inside the box itself to try to keep its structure over the years on campaign. In the front pocket here, this is where all your musket maintaining supplies would actually be, if they will allow me to pull them out. These can include, if I can get it, flints, spare flints for your musket, and as well as musket tools to try to help disassemble your musket while cleaning and maintaining your weapon while on campaign. As I said before, for the chasseur companies, since they did not get issued sword bayonet slings, they would actually be attached to the cartridge box sling itself, as shown in this picture here. The last two features of this would be the two straps underneath the cartridge box itself. This is where your bonnet de police or fatigue cap would be held while on the march or in battle. The last thing would be the small strap which is actually attached to the back of the box itself, and this would act as another level of security to try to keep the cartridge box behind you, as this would attach to either a button on the back of your coat or a leather button that would be sewn on the sword and bayonet sling itself. So once you have all your leather accoutrements on, the next thing and last thing would be your canteen itself. And that would actually be out of all the reforms and ingenuity of the French army during the Napoleonic Wars, the French army did not get issued canteens. Since the French army was never issued canteens during the Napoleonic Wars, the common soldier had to be a bit more creative when trying to make a canteen for himself. And this is one of two options. Either A, loot it off a dead soldier on the field, or B, he would have to make his own. Sometimes when a French soldier had a wine bottle and finished the wine, he wouldn't get rid of the bottle. He would actually make it into a canteen that would work for himself, as shown by these two examples here. Now these can vary in size depending on the bottle that you have at the time. The other option would be looting after a battle, as shown by this kidney canteen that would most likely be used in some British, Prussian, Austrian, and sometimes Russian armies during the Napoleonic Wars. And the last example, which we do not have in front of us, is the Gourd Canteen, which French soldiers would use a lot of during Napoleonic Wars, as seen in these pictures here. And that is only half of the accoutrements that would go on the soldier, but the other half would actually be the haversack or the knapsack. As we said at the beginning of this video, we will go into much greater detail of the knapsack and the contents in it as well in a later video. But if you like what you see here, be sure to subscribe to see more, and don't forget to follow us on Instagram and our Facebook page. And until the next one, mon amis, vive l'empereur!